Every morning, almost without thinking, you walk into a bathroom and look up. There, waiting above the sink, is your own face. You check for tiredness around your eyes. You adjust a stray hair. Throughout the day, you'll catch your reflection in shop windows, car mirrors, and the dark glass of your smartphone screen. By conservative estimates, a modern human looks at their own face more than 20 times a day. We know our own features as intimately as the palms of our hands. But for 99% of human history, that experience was physically impossible. Imagine living 70 years on this earth, growing from childhood to old age, falling in love, fighting in battles, raising children, without ever once seeing what you looked like. For the vast majority of our ancestors, your own face was a permanent mystery. You could see the hands that built your tools. You could see the feet that walked across continents. But the face that expressed your sorrow, your anger, and your joy was hidden from your eyes forever. So how did identity work in a world without reflections? How did humans groom themselves, recognize aging, or build vanity when mirrors did not exist? From murky forest ponds and polished volcanic obsidian to secret island laboratories guarded under penalty of death, humanity waged a 10,000-year quest just to look itself in the eye. This is the story of what it was like to never see your own face and why everything became easy.
When we imagine the ancient world before mirrors, our first instinct is to think of water. Why couldn't an Ice Age hunter simply kneel beside a river or a calm pond and look down? The answer lies in the physics of light. Clear water is a terrible mirror. In daylight, sunlight penetrates clear water rather than reflecting off the surface, revealing the rocks, mud, and fish at the bottom instead of your face. To get even a faint reflection from natural water, three rare conditions must align simultaneously. First, the water must be completely still. A single breeze or rippling current shatters the reflection instantly. Second, the background beneath the water must be dark or shadowed. And third, you must angle your head so that your own shadow doesn't block the light source. Even when all three conditions were met, water reflected less than 10% of incoming light. What stared back at an early human wasn't a sharp, honest portrait. It was a dark, trembling silhouette, a ghostly impression where skin texture, eye color, and fine wrinkles dissolved into shadow. Because of this, your appearance did not belong to you. Your face belonged entirely to other people. In hunter-gatherer communities, your sense of self was built through social mirror neurons. You knew you had a smudge of charcoal on your cheek only because a companion reached out and wiped it away. You knew you were growing older only because your children told you that white hairs were appearing at your temples. Your face was a gift you gave to your community, but one you could never inspect yourself. Humanity's first rebellion against this blindness occurred roughly 8,000 years ago in central Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. In the ruins of the Neolithic city of Çatalhöyük, archaeologists unearthed small, carefully ground slabs of black volcanic glass, obsidian. By spending days polishing a flat piece of obsidian with damp sand and leather, ancient craftsmen created the world's first manufactured mirrors. But an obsidian mirror was dark and moody. It absorbed 80% of the light that hit it, turning a bright human face into a smoky, dreamlike apparition. 4,000 years later, as Egyptian and Mesopotamian civilizations learned to smelt metal, a new technology emerged, the polished bronze hand mirror. For Egyptian queens and high priests, a bronze or copper mirror was a sacred symbol of power. Shaped like the flat golden disk of the sun god Ra, these heavy metal plates were ground to an immaculate sheen using pumice powder and olive oil. But polished metal came with a frustrating chemical limitation: rapid oxidation. Within 48 hours of polishing, copper and bronze react with moisture in the air, forming a cloudy, tarnished patina. A bronze mirror required daily, exhausting polishing by servants just to remain reflective. Worse still, bronze has a strong golden-orange tint. When an Egyptian pharaoh or a Babylonian king looked into a bronze disk, they didn't see their true colors. Skin tone appeared jaundiced, white eyes looked amber, and subtle facial details were lost in a coppery glare. And for 99% of the population, even a tarnished bronze disc was a fairy tale luxury. A metal mirror cost more than a common laborer earned in 5 years. Because reflections were so rare, the ancient mind treated mirrors not as grooming tools, but as magical portals. In ancient Greece, seeing your own image was considered spiritually dangerous. The myth of Narcissus, the hunter who fell so deeply in love with his own reflection in a pool of water that he died of starvation, was a cultural warning. Looking at yourself too long was seen as an invitation to madness and vanity. In the Aztec Empire of Mesoamerica, obsidian mirrors were known as Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror. Aztec priests stared into polished black stones, not to check their headdresses, but to divine the future, communicate with gods, and watch the souls of the dead. Meanwhile, in medieval Europe, life without mirrors shaped the entire fabric of society. For an ordinary medieval peasant, the only mirror available was a wooden bucket filled with dark well water, left to sit in a quiet corner of a cottage. Think about what that meant for identity. A medieval woman might live her entire life never knowing the exact shape of her nose, the true color of her eyes, or what her smile looked like to others. When people commissioned portraits or wooden carvings, only the nobility could judge whether the artist had told the truth. In a world without mirrors, people did not suffer from modern dysmorphia or obsessive self-scrutiny. But they also lived with a deep existential loneliness, forever separated from the very front of their own existence. The revolution that shattered this blindness took place around the year 1500 on the secluded island of Murano in Venice, Italy. For centuries, European glassblowers had tried to coat clear glass with metal to create a mirror. But hot molten metal shattered cold glass, and cool metal wouldn't stick. Then Venetian master craftsmen discovered an alchemy that changed the world, the tin-mercury amalgam. By pressing a sheet of flat, crystal-clear Venetian glass onto a thin layer of tin foil flooded with liquid mercury, they created a crystalline metallic bond on the back of the glass. When a Venetian nobleman looked into one of these new mirrors, the effect was terrifyingly magical. For the first time in human history, a mirror reflected 85% of incoming light without a golden tint, without a smoky blur, and without distortion. People saw their actual true color faces in high definition for the very first time. The Venetian Republic knew this invention was worth an empire. The Council of Ten declared the glass-making island of Murano a top-secret state fortress. Master mirror makers were forbidden from leaving Venice under penalty of death. If an artisan escaped to France or Germany, Venetian assassins were dispatched to hunt them down. A single Venetian glass mirror smaller than a book cost as much as a naval warship or a grand countryside estate. When King Louis XIV of France built the Palace of Versailles in the 1680s, his famous Hall of Mirrors was an act of financial intimidation, proving that France had stolen the secret of Venice and could afford to cover an entire palace in reflections. It wasn't until 1835 that a German chemist named Justus von Liebig invented the silver nitrate chemical coating process, making crystal-clear mirrors so inexpensive that every working-class family could hang one on their parlor wall. Within 2 generations, the ancient mystery of the human face was gone forever. Today, we live in a world of infinite, effortless self-reflection. We are surrounded by mirrors in our bathrooms, our cars, our elevators, and our pockets. The next time you catch your reflection in a morning mirror, pause for just a second. You aren't simply looking at a piece of glass. You are gazing into a miracle that kings, pharaohs, and 99% of all human beings who ever lived could only dream of. Your exact self staring back from the light. Because before glass there was bronze. Before bronze there was dark water. And before everything became easy, someone had to figure it out.